If you're happy with the same old ways of dating,
If you enjoy sucking at communication,
and you have no desire to improve your romantic life, then our podcast might not be for you.
but if you want some out-of-the-box ideas to deepen your current relationships,
broaden your sexual horizons,
develop a better understanding of yourself,
or learn more about non-monogamy,
Then you've come to the right place. I'm Jase,
I'm Emily.
and I'm Dedeker.
and this is the Multiamory podcast.
Songs I know I did, forcing me to form myself to fit.
On this episode of the Multiamory podcast, we are talking about relationship resolutions. That's right. It is episode 100.
Wow.
It's a new season of Multiamory.
Cool.
And it's a new year.
So many new things.
Which means New Year's resolutions. This week we're discussing resolutions that you can make in your relationships for 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hashtag relationship
relationship
goals.
goals.
Yeah. Speaking of hashtag relationship goals, I took a little tour through Twitter. Because I was curious.
Tour
Honestly,
through
I've
Twitter,
never
yeah.
used that hashtag before, relationship goals.
So you're like, what does it
like
entail?
what do people think are relationship goals? There were a lot of very Christian ones. Such
Okay.
my favorite was dance with God and he'll let the right one cut in.
Wow.
Hashtag relationship goals.
Uh-huh.
A lot of people posted pictures of the president and the first lady. Our current
That I
president, Obama, and Michelle Obama, just to clarify.
Yeah. The current
Um,
one as of right now.
Yes, yeah. So
At
a
the
lot of
beginning
people,
of
a lot of people
2017.
listed them as relationship goals. A lot of people posting pictures of like their old parents or grandparents saying
right.
relationship goals, which is kind of cute. At the same time, kind of assumes that because a relationship lasts long, that means that it's a good relationship.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
This one I didn't quite understand. Someone said when you think you are holding your boyfriend's hand sleeping next to you, but it's just your own hand that fell asleep.
So,
Hashtag relationship.
Hashtag relationship goals.
Is that saying like you don't have a boyfriend?
I think that
So it's saying you love yourself? I don't know what it's saying.
it's weird with that hashtag because it makes me think of one of those more like, like that moment when kind of posts.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
that moment when you think you're holding your boyfriend's hand.
But really, it's your own hand that you're
Yeah.
holding for some reason, and
But
it's falling
hashtag
asleep.
relationship goals is
I know, that's I don't know what that even
maybe
means.
it's ironic.
Yeah.
This one I like a lot. Mom bought herself a bunch of stuff today and brought it home for Dad to give for for Christmas. I like that.
Hashtag relationship,
Hashtag relationship goals. I mean, why not? If that's what's the
Honey,
most
oh my
efficient.
God, you didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that something this does bring up, though, that I think is going to be relevant to the rest of our conversation as well, is just this idea that, like, trying to make your relationship like another one is a
That's
goal.
interesting.
That should be a goal. And I think there's definitely something to be said for, like, having role models and looking at things other people do that you're like, oh, I'd like to do that as well.
Yeah.
But I especially find with parents, this can be a problematic one where they've kind of, for a lot of people, our parents are our only model of like what a romantic
What a long-term
relationship looks
should be,
like.
or looks like. Yeah.
Right? Like our only example of it really until we start watching TV. And then even then it's like our only real life example a lot of the time, at least. And anyway, just that like I know a lot of people who will want things in their relationship or feel like relationships should have certain qualities that I might look at and go, I'm not so sure those are like really healthy or good qualities, but they want it because that's what
do
their
you have an
parents did.
example?
I mean, an example that comes to mind is fighting, arguing. That like I know that happens sometimes, but like there are some people who like feel like if you're not fighting with your partner, it means you're not passionate and you don't care.
That's interesting. Actually, I have run into people like
Yeah,
that who
yeah.
like where it's like there's this romanticized sense of like, well, passionate fights mean it's a passionate relationship.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Or even
That's sorry to cut in. That's actually
Yeah.
something I hated about The Notebook.
Oh,
is,
did
like,
they
glorified
fought
the fact
a
that they
ton?
fought all the time. Like that was something that it was a very short moment, but they were like, yeah, they fought all the time, but they loved each other so much.
Right.
I really didn't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then I think like another one would be, maybe this is, well, whatever. Like if the example was you grew up where your mom gave up her career to raise you and your siblings or whatever. And that there are some people who then grow up to think like, oh, well, because my parents did that,
That's what I need to do.
That's
too.
what I should have someone who does that, or I should be someone who does that, and that's then a hashtag relationship goal.
Yeah,
of
or like you have to emulate or follow everything that your parents did for you, for your
right,
kids.
and I know we kind of
I don't know.
latch on to some things, and then we also latch on to some things we're afraid of becoming.
Oh God, yeah.
And that can be
course.
that can be
Oh, God,
problematic
yeah.
too, though, right? Like that whole like attracting the thing that you focus on. And so I think that these exercises about that we're going to talk about going deep and kind of finding out what's really at the core of your relationship, and also for yourself, can actually help to forge your own way, I guess, like kind of to find out what really matters to you, not just trying to copy the outside appearance of someone else's relationship, but instead to focus on the feelings of it. So why don't we get into that?
Yeah, so I mean, if you think about just New Year's resolutions in the abstract, I mean, I don't know. Honestly, it's been quite a while since I've actually made like a concrete New Year's resolution.
I made some this year.
Oh, did you?
Oh yeah.
Well, I want to at least I want to be better
Wait, hang
with
on.
my
As in,
money
you
this
made
year.
some for 2016, or this for 2017?
No, I
you want
made
to be better with
one.
your
Yes,
money?
for
I see.
2017. Yeah, I was
I
like,
see.
I'm going to try hard to eliminate credit card debt, or at least work very hard to make a big dent in
Yeah.
credit card debt.
I think that's a good one. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people
Yeah.
will do resolutions around debt,
Yes.
or money, or savings, things
Yeah,
like that.
savings for sure.
Obviously, a lot of people do the weight loss thing, getting in shape and being healthier. Or
The vegan restaurants go crazy this
yeah,
time of year.
exactly.
Yeah,
Like maybe
seriously.
changing their diet,
Yeah.
trying new things, things
Yep.
like that.
Totally.
So I think that when you think about what kind of resolutions could I have for my relationship, it's a little bit less clear. Other than some people might
slightly
be
more
like,
abstract.
I would like to have a relationship this
Sure,
year,
yeah.
or maybe I would
Sure.
like to open my relationship this year,
Or I want to
maybe I want to ask out the person
or I
I've
wanna
wanted to
come
ask
out
out
this
for a long
year.
time, or
Yeah,
want to come
come
out.
out,
Yes,
sure.
that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk more about having relationship goals for your existing relationships.
Yeah.
And how to make those ones deeper and better. And
I think a lot of this stuff, though, kind of applies to each individual's romantic life in general, too.
Sure.
So even if you're not in any relationships right now, I think this stuff still applies.
Can apply, yeah.
It's definitely stuff worth going through these exercises and thinking about these things. So I guess what we wanted to get to, that I kind of hinted at before, is that it's about focusing on how you want your relationships to feel for the year. So, something that Dedeker likes to say is the idea of fluidity over form. That things don't have to be one specific way for you to be happy in it, but that more it's that it can adapt and change as the needs of the people involved change.
yeah.
And I think that approaching things through feelings, at least through these much bigger, broader goals, can help on the individual basis as well. For instance, I know for me, a way I want to feel is I want to feel like my body is healthy and energetic.
Yeah.
And feels good.
Right.
And so
rather
that
than
doesn't
having-
necessarily mean
Yeah.
I need to lose 15 pounds or I need to eat vegan.
Yeah.
Right.
It can be a number of things. If I know that goal is well, this is how I want to feel about my body.
Yeah.
Or it could even be a psychological thing
Sure.
about how I, think about my own body.
Or
and
I
stuff
need to
like
get more
that.
sleep or
Yes,
something like
exactly.
that. Like
And so,
Right.
so I think the
Yeah.
same things can apply to relationships. Is focusing on, how do we want our relationship to feel, or how do I want to feel in my relationships?
Yeah.
Opens you up to this broader goal that's comprised of many different parts and many different possible paths to achieving that goal.
yeah.
Right, and that gives you the freedom to adapt the way that you're going about these over the course of the year, rather than kind of being well, shit, I failed on hitting this one specific way it needed to
Yeah.
look like, right? Whether it's some number goal or having that new relationship or something. If instead was I want to feel like I can connect with new people, that I have the confidence to do that, and that I can open up to new people. That regardless of whether you end up in some sort of long-term relationship by the end of that year, you can still be doing things to accomplish those goals. It could be, embracing more of the relationship anarchy side and deepening your friendships and having more commitment in your friendships.
Sure.
Right. There's a lot of
Yeah.
ways that could look.
So when you're thinking about this, when you're coming together with your partner and trying to think about what kind of resolutions you might want, what kind of feelings, how you want your relationship to feel, I always encourage people to simplify, really. Well, actually, sorry, that's not correct. I encourage people to go super detailed first, and we'll kind of get into that later in the episode about kind of questions you can ask yourself and questions you and your partners can ask together about your feelings and what you want for the relationship. And then taking all that detailed information and trying to cut it down to something super simple that's like your guiding light.
What's a good example of that?
Well, a good example for me, this wasn't something that I picked out as a specific resolution, but more as kind of a general kind of guideline for approaching relationships, which I'm better at sometimes than others. But it was kind of the simple little motto that I picked was trust over fear. So as in kind of trying to come back to that idea of trusting my partner, or partners, trusting that things are going to be good, trusting that people have my best interest in mind, trusting that things are going to turn out for the best rather than for the worst.
That's a great one.
Yeah, and so rather than focusing on like very specific agreements or specific rules or very specific goals, that was kind of my big overarching broad one. I don't know, do you have any other examples that you can think of?
I mean, I think of the Franklin Vo motto thing of do no harm. That it's kind of like take all the things you kind of believe in with relationships and all of that and try to distill it down to the simplest thing. Right? So, he talks about like the danger of putting rules on other people or about having hierarchies, and that's kind of his whole like platform is about like being really ethical and like not trying to limit other people or control them or hurt other relationships for the sake of your own, stuff like that. And that it kind of like as you simplify that down and find out like what's the recurring theme in all of this, it's do no harm. Right?
I think one that I would have is to break your patterns, because I know like if a thing that will come up in relationships that I have like occurs over and over again, it's just a pattern that I keep playing, and a lot of times it does kind of go into fear, or just a worry that I might have. And so if I can like continue to focus on that and say like, hey, I'm doing this again, and let's stop that, then hopefully it leads to better things within the relationship.
I like that one because it kind of puts it upon you that like once you recognize a pattern, then that's the moment that it's like, okay, like how do I change it?
And helps you not
like how do I actually take proactive action to change it? And speaking of, that's actually a good segue because I know myself, like the super pragmatic person, I'm like, wait, no, like where's the actionable steps?
Sure.
Like, I need something practical. I need something tangible, like, these like broad concepts are great, but how do you actually achieve trust over fear? How do you actually achieve breaking your patterns? How do you actually achieve do no harm? And so where that comes in is taking time in your relationship, maybe once a month, maybe once every 2 weeks, however long is appropriate, to do some kind of check-in with your partner. If you listen to our Agile Scrum episode and that's something that you want to try, like that's perfect for it. Having a Scrum meeting be your monthly check-in. It doesn't have to be Scrum. It can just be some time that you decide once a month to sit down and have an actual talk about, the state of the union, as it were. Right. And that's the time to actually get specific, So maybe like your first Scrum meeting or your first check-in meeting of the year, you're like, okay, we've set our resolution for breaking our patterns, breaking our communication patterns, like our unhealthy communication patterns. Right. And so those are the times when you sit down and then you're like, well, what does that mean? Like, did something happen this month? I noticed that like the last time we argued, the same thing happened, or like you got angry and I got sad and then we stormed off, you know? And so what's something that we can try this month that's specific, tangible, actionable to see if we can break that pattern?
That's great.
Yeah.
And so that's how you kind of, if each check-in meeting, you check in with, reminding yourselves of what our resolution was for this year, and then seeing like, well, how are we doing on that so far?
So like the resolution is like a mission statement for that year. It's like, of all the things we're going to talk about in our monthly meetings, like remember this is the point of it all. Right? Our goal is to whatever it is for you. And like you were saying, it could be about it could all boil down to like, I want to have excitement in my relationships, right? So if that's your goal, like when you're doing your monthly meetings, like keep that in mind and be like, how can we keep this exciting? Is it about taking more trips? Like, well, let's try that. For this month, let's do like 2 weekend getaways. So like you do these actionable steps and then you check in the next month and be like, how did we feel? Did that help us with our goal?
Yeah.
Right? Is this serving our overall resolution, our overall like mission statement?
Or it could be something where it's like, yeah, we took trips and like that was really fun and it was exciting, but I'm actually feeling like maybe that was not actually what I wanted. You know, maybe that will help you clarify, and you could possibly change what your relationship goal is or resolution is.
That's true too. Yeah, that it can change. It's not like you're stuck.
Yeah.
It's not like you sign some contract
Fluidity.
being like,
Exactly.
Overform, yeah.
Exactly.
But you know, to use then a different example, like it could be, and I feel like for a lot of people, in any kind of relationship really, is that it could be very reasonable to have a goal of, we want our relationship to feel more secure, right? Like I want to feel more safe and secure in this relationship. And if that's the case, then it's coming to those monthly meetings being like, well, cool, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Is it some sort of intimate activity that we do together, right? Is it some sort of sharing that we do? Is it, let's try like doing couples counseling for a month, right? You can do like actionable, specific things to instead of just being like, I want to feel better. It's like, feel better. Okay. Right? Because that, like, we all do that kind of stuff, but it doesn't really make those long-term changes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So pretty soon we're going to get into kind of, specific questions that you can ask to kind of get closer to what your relationship resolution might be. Just a first note on a personal level about personal growth goals. No, we're really getting personal with it. But of course, this is also the time of year to be making personal goals for your own growth or for your own ambitions, whatever it is. We'd actually recommend trying to keep a little bit of space between your personal resolutions and your relationship resolutions.
Or at least not making your partner be the one to hold you accountable to your personal resolutions.
Right.
Your accountability buddy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And now this is a challenging one because a lot of people do this, and we're kind of taught to do this, right? We see it in TV, couples on sitcoms and stuff there, where it's, the wife nagging the husband about the way that he eats. And you notice I use the word nagging because that's what it becomes. That's what it starts to feel like.
Yeah.
Or it's the funny show where the guy's always nagging his girlfriend about cleaning up after herself because she's artsy slob, or whatever it is. It's like that type of being the one who's like constantly trying to get someone to be accountable is a really helpful thing to have, but I don't think it's something that your romantic partner should do. Not if you want it to stay romantic and stay sexual, because it's like, oh fuck, I'm like annoyed with you all the time because you're keeping me accountable to this thing. I'm not gonna want to have sex with you, right? Or I'm not gonna want to be sweet
but
with you.
I think it doesn't mean that you have to keep your personal goals secret from your partner.
Sure, that's not what I'm
you
saying.
can't get support. It's just it's the subtle difference between seeking support versus seeking somebody to be your policeman or your parent or your personal trainer.
Right. And this is something too that helps with regardless of whether you're in a monogamous relationship or a polyamorous relationship, but keeping your independence from your partner. So rather than them having to fill every role in your life, right? The police officer, the friend, the sex partner, the coach, like therapist, right? Like rather than them being all those things, we should all strive to have other resources for that. Whether it's like a men's group or a women's group that you go to that holds you accountable for stuff, or just people in like a social atmosphere where you could be like, hey man, like that I get too drunk at the bar, can you kind of be the one to like remind me of that when we're out, rather than that being your girlfriend or your boyfriend being like, no, don't do that, and you're like, fuck you, like,
fuck you, I do what I want.
Fuck you, I'm getting drunk tonight.
And I did want to share a little personal example of this. Is that I was smoking vape at this time, but I was doing that night, and
vaping.
This was when I was dating Mochi, and she many times during that would, because she knew that I wanted to quit, and she would offer like, hey, do you want me to hold you accountable to that? Do you want me to be the one to like kind of remind you that you don't want to do that, or help limit the number that you have, or something like that? And every time I kept being like, no, like, because I had already learned this lesson in the past, and was like, no, I don't want you to be the person who is doing that, who's like stopping me from doing a thing I want to do, right? Because I would rather be happy to see you, I'm excited to hang out with you, instead of like feeling like, oh god, now things are gonna get hard. So the cool part of this story though is that after like 2 or 3 months after that, I did end up quitting, and I've still been quit.
Yeah.
But that I didn't need her to do that for me in order for me to accomplish that thing because I wanted to.
Of course.
Because it also kept my own ownership of it. It's like,
Yeah.
all right, I want to do this
yeah.
because I want to do it, and not because someone else is telling me to.
Yeah.
So I think that's very valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. And really quickly, before we dig into this, setting relationship goals and intentions and resolutions, these don't have to be just for relationships that are really emotionally intense, or relationships where you're more entwined, or relationships where you're cohabiting. These could be for your casual relationships, or if you employ primary secondary hierarchy, these could be for your secondary relationships as well, or any relationship that's not on the relationship escalator. You can still set some goals and some intentions and resolutions to being really good partners to each other, and to taking the relationship in the direction that you guys want to go.
The relationship goal doesn't have to be building toward having a home together,
Yes.
or right,
Yeah.
Having a child together.
Yeah. Okay, let's take a quick break. We want to tell you guys really quickly about our Patreon community. So if you go to patreon.com/multiamory, you become one of our patrons and help support our show directly. If you enjoy listening to us, if you get value out of listening to our podcast, we'd absolutely love for your support. Any of the money that you donate to us does not go into our own pockets whatsoever. It goes back, if we invest it back into Multiamory, into continuing to grow the podcast, continuing to
create new events.
Create events, reach out to our listeners, create new material. And also, it allows us to connect to our listeners on this really personal level. If you donate at the $5 level, you get access to our private patron-only Facebook group. That's a discussion group that we are constantly active in. At higher levels, you can get access to our video discussion group once a month. And it's just fantastic.
Yeah, so that community is so awesome. We're really grateful to have them. We're going to make an awesome 2017.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Also, if you guys could take just a moment and write us a review on iTunes or Stitcher or Google Play, or wherever it is that you listen to podcasts, take a couple minutes. Write us a review if you like our show. It helps other people to find us. It helps us show up better in search results. It helps other people to know what they're going to get when they come to this show, so that they can help find this if it's something that's going to be right for them. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
And last thing, my goodness, when this episode comes out, it'll be about a month until my book is released?
Yeah.
Holy crap. Okay, you guys, so if you want, you can pre-order my book, The Smart Girl's Guide to Polyamory, on Amazon. There's a link in the episode description. Right now, while it's on pre-order, I think it's like $5 off. It's like 30% off. Like it's way cheaper than the list price. So pre-order it, get that good price, and be my best friend.
Yay.
Woo.
Yay.
Yes.
Also, Bombas, if you are watching this, you can see that we all have on our color-coordinated socks. So our listeners can get 20% off of their first order by going to getbombas.com/multiamory.
Can you spell that for them?
B-O...
No, the
Get GETBOMBAS.com/multiamory.
Great.
Plus, for every pair of socks you order, Bombas will donate a pair of socks to the homeless, which is super, super important. Socks are the most requested thing in homeless shelters, so you are helping out not only us, but your local homeless shelter as well.
And I don't know if you guys saw on Instagram, just the other day, someone posted a picture of them and their partner in their Bombas socks that they got from our promo code.
What?
Nice.
And specifically mentioned me, and they were like, Jase, you were not lying. These are the most comfortable
No, they
socks.
really are
Oh my God.
crazy
I'm
comfortable.
looking
Like
at
it's really surprising. I didn't
That's
think they could make socks
awesome.
this comfortable.
Yeah, it's really awesome. I wish I had ordered more than 8 pairs when I ordered mine.
Yeah, because I really want to steal some pairs.
Yes, they're awesome. They come in all sorts of different styles. This is the classic Bombas style, which is the black with the or white with the colored toes and heels. But there's also ones that are more like smart wool socks that are winter socks. They have dress socks. They have ones with fun patterns on them. All sorts of different things. So go check it out at getbombas.com/multiamory and get 20% off your first order.
Yeah. Okay, so let's hop right back into it. So when people are creating resolutions, whether it's for their relationship or for their personal life, most people think about, what do I want to have in the next year? Or what do I want to do in the next year? Maybe it's I want to travel to a particular location. Maybe I want to set up a savings account and save X amount of dollars, or maybe I want to be debt free.
Yeah.
Right.
But what we want you guys to focus on when thinking about your relationships is more, what do I want to be? Like, what kind of person do I want to be?
Yeah, and
what
both
do I
for
want this
yourself
relationship to be?
and as a relationship. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And that goes along with what we were saying, is if you think about what you want to be and how you want to feel and like who you need to be in order to feel that way, that'll help direct then, each month as you're kind of reevaluating, figuring out your little short-term goals, things to try, helps you evaluate what it is you're trying to become.
And we want you guys to fortify the relationship from the inside rather than protect it from the outside.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's an idea that I've been riding the wave of for a while.
Yeah.
Kind of this idea of how can we make like our relationship so strong that we don't feel directly threatened by things happening on the outside.
Yeah.
I think that's like kind of the number one antidote to
insecurity.
Yeah, to wanting to apply rules.
Yep.
Yes,
to wanting to apply specific rules is this idea like, how can I make myself feel so strong and confident? How can I make our relationship so strong and confident that I don't feel the need to be like, oh God, whatever you do, like you can't fall in love with someone.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, you can't spend the night with someone.
Yeah.
Right. And it takes all different forms.
Sure. Yeah.
But so this is a tricky thing, and I do want to talk about this for just a second, is how do you do that, building it up, that strength from the inside? Because I think in a lot of ways it's something that comes with time.
Yeah, of course. Of
right?
course.
That, the longer you've known someone, the more you've been through, you kind of have that sense of like, okay, we can get through stuff,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
So I feel secure in that.
I mean, I think kindness like begets kindness from your partners, and so if you do like an active job of being really like good to them, really giving them encouragement and giving them like a lot of love, that will come back to you, and that always like breeds a lot of, I don't know, it tamps down insecurity in my opinion. Just knowing like being able to be like, hey, my partner loves me, I love them, and like I'm consistently showing this to them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And we also have more specific questions to ask as well.
Right. Well, let's get into the questions.
Sure.
Okay, yeah. So we
Unless
have
you have
like some example questions that maybe you might ask yourself. So some sets of questions to ask yourself and for your partner to ask themselves.
Right.
As well as some questions for the two of you to ask together.
Yeah. So we'd recommend finding a time, finding a day when you can do this. Maybe some weekend day when you both have a little time, but take a moment to yourself to each answer these questions on your own, and write them down so you have some notes. You don't need to like write out a big formal thing. But just write it down so you remember it, and then to come together. But let's do the individual questions first.
Okay. Yeah,
let's go through those.
Okay, so and these are examples. You don't have to do all of these. You don't.
But you should.
Yeah.
No,
Okay,
do all
fine.
of them.
So you can ask yourself something like, what did I do well in my relationships this year? Maybe it's like, well, I feel like I did a good job of communicating even when I'm upset. Kind of keeping a cool head even when I'm upset.
Or
maybe
I
did
halted a lot this year.
I halted a lot this
Yeah.
year. Or I did a good job of being really open and affectionate with my partners this year.
Just to clarify, HALT is our
yes.
acronym from our 5 Ways to Suck Less at Communication
Yes.
PDF and episode.
Hungry, angry, lonely, tired.
So if you're starting
Halt.
to have a fight when you're any of those things, halt, stop,
Don't do it.
make a
it.
time to come back to it later.
Yes.
Yeah, those are good ones. Though remembering to halt is important. A lot of times it's easy to forget that one.
For sure.
And then kind of on the flip side of it, looking back and saying, well, what could I improve in my relationships this year?
Right.
What did I suck at in my relationships last year?
Yeah, and this could be something like, I could improve at being more generous in my relationships, like feeling more encouraging of them finding other romantic partners or other sexual partners or having other sexual experiences or romantic experiences, whatever it is for you that's kind of your place where you could improve.
Yeah.
I think that's a big one for a lot of people. What else? What are
I really like this next one because I really like the idea of kind of summarizing knowledge. So looking back over the past year and asking yourself, like, what was the main thing that I learned this year just about relationships in general? What is it like, what are the skills that I learned this year that make me just a better human being in relationships?
right.
And then also asking, what did I learn about each of my relationships? Maybe what did I learn about each of my partners? That's really important to know for the future. And then also, what was the main thing I learned about myself this year?
Yeah, and this could be, being really honest, and maybe I learned about myself that I'm super insecure about this certain area, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's like my gift buying, because Christmas just happened, and I'm like, wow, I suck at buying gifts.
Oh, no, you don't. No, you don't.
Aw,
You
thanks,
got me
guys.
great gifts.
Totally.
Right, but whatever it is, it can also be something really honest with yourself of like, I've realized that like, I love polyamory and I believe in it, but I have a real hard time with jealousy or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Allows you to start moving forward from it, of
Yeah.
just kind of admitting that.
Yeah.
Right, the first step is accepting you have a problem.
Yes.
Something like that. Yeah.
The next one is, how do I want my relationships to feel? And I asked Dedeker about this one because I was like, what does that even mean? But a good answer, like, do you want your relationship to be exciting? Do you want it to feel spontaneous and, really interesting all the time? Do you want it to feel like safe and secure and, I don't know, static to that degree? Not necessarily, but
Like stable, maybe.
Yeah, exactly, stable.
Yeah.
And this, obviously, you might want a little of all of those things.
Sure.
But in thinking, like, what is it that you wish you had more of, maybe? Or what's kind of something that you would like to have to focus on for this year
Yeah.
in your relationships? And maybe it is that I want to feel like I have more secure relationships.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Or it could be like, I feel super secure, right?
Yeah,
I want...
like, bring it on.
I
all
want
the fun
excitement,
stuff.
right?
That
Yeah.
leads into the next one, which is asking, in order to have that feeling in my relationships, what kind of person would I need to be?
Yeah.
And if you think about it, you're like, well, I would really love to have like stable, secure feeling relationships.
I need to be stable and secure
I
myself.
mean, honestly, sometimes that leads to like, well, that means I also need to work on my
Yeah.
own individual stability
For
and
sure.
security, because that's kind of half of the equation. Or
Of
maybe
course.
it's like I need to be someone who's really good at communicating my needs.
And then I would say also with that, I need to be someone who's good at then trusting that my partner is going to follow through
Sure.
Yeah.
after we've talked on things, right?
yeah.
Or trusting that they're doing their best as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So there's lots of different levels to it.
Definitely.
Is sort of looking at what is it for you
Yeah.
that you would need to be
Yeah.
to experience that.
Yeah. And so those are just some examples.
Right.
So
But do them all, though.
yeah.
Dedeker's being
Jesus.
too soft here. We're
Yeah.
laying down
Yeah,
the
we
law.
want everything.
I know Jase is the taskmaster around these parts. So it could be useful to answer those questions and maybe have your partner or multiple partners answer them as well,
Right.
and then
And
kind of come
compare notes,
together,
yeah.
maybe talk about what you came up with, and then you kind of ask some very similar questions but together. For instance, what did we do well in this particular relationship
Right.
last year?
This year, yeah.
Yeah, just as a relationship, what
Yeah.
did we do that was awesome?
Maybe we were like really good at exploratory sex.
Yeah,
Like, and
no,
that
for
was
sure.
the
Right?
best thing that we did. Or maybe we
Yeah.
were really good at handling family conflict.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what could my partner and I do to improve our relationship this year?
Right. So same, like we said
Yeah.
before, is kind of, well, maybe we could be better about taking more trips together.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or making more like date nights.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
like that.
And again, to echo the individual questions, asking what was the main thing that we learned this year about our relationship.
This is a fun one because if you look back, if you've been in this relationship for a while, look back to the previous year and this year and be like, we really learned how to avoid this type of fight this year. Or
yeah.
like, we really learned a better way of communicating about our favorite ice cream flavors when we go out for dessert. Like,
So specific.
no,
That's
that's the
super
thing. Though,
I just have to
it could
assume
be
that that's
anything.
a euphemism for some kind of sexual thing.
Jeez, no, I'm just talking about ice cream.
Could it be vegan ice cream?
It could be vegan ice cream if you want. Yes.
And then what was the main thing we learned this year about
We
our
just cut
No,
relationships?
that was that one.
Never mind.
Do the next one.
How do we want to feel in this relationship? Okay, it's the same thing. I did this one last time too. So how do we want to feel together? Because I asked this question, I was like, well, what if somebody wants like a lot of trips and spontaneity, and then the other person like doesn't?
Well, yeah, that's the part of the negotiation.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
Exactly. Like, you could come with different things, but then also, if we are assuming that you're polyamorous, and I know not everyone that listens to this podcast is, but if you are, then you could, for your individual one, say, I want my relationships in general to feel more exciting, say. It's like, I want them to be exciting and spontaneous. But then in each of your relationships, there might be one where this relationship, though, our goal is to make this feel more secure.
Sure.
Maybe because this is already your adventurous one, or maybe this is the one that you want to kind of be your secure thing to come back to. You know, whatever it is, there's different ways that could look. But so this answer could be different for you as a relationship than it is for you individually. But hopefully those would help complement each other.
Yeah. And then finally, what kind of people do we need to be in order to have that?
Right. So it's kind of that same sort of question. Yeah. And then, like Dedeker was saying, take these things and try to distill them down. Try to simplify them to like, what's at the core of this? What's at the heart of this?
And I like that idea, especially if you're doing a scrum each month or even just like a monthly meeting about your relationships, like keeping that as the overarching theme and being able to say like, okay, are we making progress towards that goal or that feeling that we want in this relationship each month?
Exactly.
We should develop this into like a little worksheet or something.
Yeah, I think
that's a good one.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, I can't promise that we'll have a worksheet ready to go for you guys by the time this episode comes out, but
we'll try.
But we
can
might
try.
If we do, it'll be in the lesson notes.
Yes, in the lesson notes,
the syllabi,
in the syllabus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh
All right, we would love to hear from you if you have any cool relationship goals or things that you accomplished from last year that you're really proud of, or any other cool resolution tricks. We love this kind of stuff. We love to hear from you. If you want to share that with us, you can email us at info@multiamory.com. You can tweet at us at Multiamory. You can find us on Facebook, on Instagram. You just search Multiamory in all those places and you'll find us. We really do read every message and every comment and every tweet that we get, and usually we'll then text each other and be like, hey, did you see that thing? Like, oh, what did you think? Like, we should, like, oh, why don't you reply to that and say this thing? Well, we put a lot of thought into all of it because it means a lot to us. So thank you so much for that. And share with us how it's been going for you. And if you want to do that in our Patreon group, we definitely recommend becoming a patron on Patreon to join the Facebook group or the online video discussion group where we can get even more into the nitty-gritties of this and talk about the specifics of your relationships and help support other people. So thank you guys so much.
Yay.
Also stay tuned for multiamory.com/events. Check out our tour information as well as other retreats and discussion groups and workshops and stuff that we're doing coming up. We're really excited to see all of you on the West Coast in February.
Yay.
Oh, yeah.
All right. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, this is Dan Savage from the Savage Lovecast and Savage Love, and you're listening to a Swing Set podcast at Swing Set FM.